Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia, and this is the summary for the day of 294 to 295 for the 14th and 15th of December for the Ukraine war and all the special military operation by Russia on Ukraine. So let's start off with statements by the Ukrainian commander. So the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Zaluzhny, he had an interview, so he mentioned some interesting things. So I thought you guys might be interested. So according to the Ukrainian estimates, the Russian reserve is between 1.2 to 1.5 million people, and currently they believe that the Russians are training about 200,000 new soldiers, and he strongly believes that the Russians will open the northern front again by going to attack Kiev. And he also rejected the propagandas claiming that the Russians have a lack of will to fight. So he said that the mobilization worked, and the problems are not as serious. It's not serious, and these people will fight. So he said that he studied the history of the two Chechen wars, and it was similar. So he said that the Russians are not as well equipped, but they are still a problem. So in a way, he's saying that the Ukrainians are better equipped than the Russian forces, and however, the Russian forces are still going to be motivated to fight. So some very interesting things, and it's actually also kind of contradicts some of the statements by the Russian side, mainly about the reserve, because the Russians' official number of reserve is actually 10 times of this number. And also that the training, the current being trained soldier is actually 150,000 according to the Russian Defense Ministry. So it's not 200,000, but no, this is the Ukrainian commander-in-chief. So perhaps he have information that we don't have, or maybe he's counting another 50,000 soldiers that is in Belarus. So maybe that makes up to 200,000. That could be the case. And he also said that there is no more needs for Ukraine to do further mobilization. He said additional measures of this nature is not needed. He said the Ukrainian army have enough people, but not enough armored vehicles and ammunition, which is quite a serious problem. Not enough ammunition is particularly serious, because you need ammunition to fight. Not enough armored vehicles is only kind of makes it harder to do offensive, but defensive operation you still need ammunition. And it's interesting also that Zaluzhny also said that the next goal of the Ukrainian offensive is to capture Melitopol and control the land corridor to Crimea. So I would say this one, just stick it with a massive pail of salt. You should bathe with it, because no one would tell you, no generals will tell you their true plans, saying that they will attack Melitopol and to block the land corridor between Crimea and Russia. I think, I don't believe it. To be honest, the very fact that they are still struggling on this front makes it impossible for them to be launching a new offensive. That's my opinion. And moving to the front lines, we have nothing over the southern front. At the Velika Novosibirsk region, we have a counter-offensive by the Ukrainian forces over at the Velika Novosibirsk region, towards in the area around here. So that's all we know about that. And over at the Donetsk region, at the Donetsk front, the Ukrainians continue to launch major offensives around the Soledar region, with fighting reported at Novomayoske, Pelivka on both days, on 14th and the 15th, and there is also fighting reported on the 14th at Mikhailske. And moving to Novomahailivka, the Russians are the one doing the offensive around this region here, where Novomahailivka reported fighting. So is Boyeda, as well as at Marinka. The Boyeda is being reported to be yesterday. They were fighting yesterday. On Marinka is actually on both days. The fighting continues to be raging very fiercely around here, but there is actually not much changes other than the original, the last information I mentioned in the last SITREP, where the Russian forces have controlled the road towards Krasnohorivka to the north. And the Ukrainians actually launched a counteroffensive towards in the region of Krasnohorivka. So that this is reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. Over at the Pisky region, so this is Pisky in the northwestern part of Donetsk city. If you guys are still lost, there's fighting at Nivelsky on the 15th, and there is also fighting reported at Pervomaisky. According to the pro-Russian source, Ryber, they said that they captured a group of Ukrainian fighters, which actually how I know that there is fighting in this region. The Russian Defense Ministry on the 14th made a very weird statements and kind of confused quite a number of OSIN or mappers. The Russian Defense Ministry said that they captured the main part of Vodian in an offensive. So, but in terms of how we do coverage here, that simply means fighting at Vodian. So, capturing a main part simply just means they captured part of Vodian. There's nothing very special about this. The Ukrainian launched an attack near Jevene, north of Vodian, around this region here, probably towards Opine. We didn't have much more information about this. This seems to be very out of place as well, but we shall see how this goes. And over at the Novo-Bakhmutivka region, north of Avdiivka city, there is fighting reported at Alexandropil as well as at Novo-Bakhmutivka. This is reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, and the intels coming from this region is very limited. So we're not sure where the true front line is, because we do have reports of Russians attacking Karamik and Novo-Kalinove previously. So we shall see how this goes. Moving to the very end of the New York front, we have fighting reported at Druzhba, just to the west of Mayosk. The reinforcement was reported in the Torets region. Probably to reinforce the situation coming here, because things are getting very desperate. So we coming to the Bakhmut front, the reinforcement continue to be flowing into this entire region. We have reinforcement reported at Bilahora, at Shafivya. For Shafivya is actually a concentration of forces which are meant to do a counterattack. And there is also reinforcement over in the middle of the city at Bakhmut. The reinforcement is not huge. It's like 60 soldiers here, 60 soldiers here. So the kind of the reinforcement, if you ask me, seems a bit small. The pro-Russian source Ryber say that the reinforcement are mobilized Ukrainian troops. So not sure are they actually the fully trained ones that were sent overseas. So it remains to be seen, but it must be very scary for these soldiers coming to this area. There is a MiG-29 getting shot down over Yablunivka. Yablunivka is actually west of Holivka city, and far north to the Donetsk city, or south of Kramatorsk. So again, this is another MiG-29 getting shot down. So not very good in terms of the Ukrainian situation. The fighting is reported at Ozyarenivka, at Andriivka, Klishevka, and Opine. In terms of the 2 days, the fighting on the 14th is actually not so much. 15 yesterday is actually much more heavier. So so most of this fighting is actually reported yesterday, for yesterday. In the day before on 14 is not as heavy, the fighting. So but Opine is one of those front line that is very 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 heavily being fought over. So the Wagner groups are fighting in this region, south of Bakhmut city, and in the southeast, fighting continues to be reported around the street of Fedorov Maximenka Street, and there's also another street that has been reported fighting at the Pervomaisky lane, and I didn't find where's the lane exactly. So anyway, it's not important. It's basically in the southeast, and the fighting also continues to be reported at Bakhmut on the 14th and on the 15th, and on the fighting is is still, within the urban area, as well as on the 15th, there's fighting reported in the industrial zone on the eastern side. So probably around here, my guess. So definitely the Ukrainians are not going to sit still. They're going to try to push back the Russians as much as they can. There is actually a river or water body around here. So the fighting, the Ukrainian troops wouldn't be able to cross over here. So the fighting is probably around this region. Here. Moving up north, fighting continues to be raging at Pohorodny, according to the Russian source, pro-Russian source, Ryba, where the Wagner groups are reportedly fighting around here. Interesting information is that at the industrial zone, the fighting the fighting here on the Russian side is by the Wagner private military contractors. This actually kind of contradicts a little bit from what we understand, that the eastern breakthrough here is actually fought by the Russian military with the Donetsk militia. So so it could be a case where the northern part of this eastern front line is actually handled by the Wagner group, whereas the one that's fighting through the town here or the urban area here is actually by the Russian and Donetsk forces. So that could be a case. Situation remains the same in terms of a strategic side. It still looks a lot like a attempted pincer movement, but no, we will not be able to see as clearly until we can see clear advances towards Yakhine or maybe towards Ivanivsky. There is some rumors about this road from Klishevka to Bakhmut getting under Russian fire control. I didn't see this in my sources, so I'm gonna ignore this information. Over at the Soledar region, there is fighting reported at Bakhmutske as well as at Soledar. Exact front line the fighting is probably around this region here. The mapping here is not 100% accurate. This is just an estimation based on formal information. There are also mappings that shows that this area here, these 4 streets are actually under Ukrainian control. So just take this with a pinch of salt. And Yakovlivka, there is information from pro-Russian sources saying that the sweeping or clearing operation has been completed. However, the fighting is continuing to be reported around the region here by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on both days, on 14 and 15. So situation here remains to be unclear, and with the Russian Defense Ministry did not declare a victory over here, so I will not jump to conclusion anyhow. Over at the Sivers front, there's fighting reported near Vesele as well as near Vimka and at Verkhan Okamyamske. The Russian forces also reportedly attacked Krychorivka and Bilohorivka. Reinforcement is reported near Bilohorivka on the 14th to reinforce the line around here. This is the more interesting one, the fighting at Krychorivka, which also suggests that the Russian forces definitely have control over this central area here within all this forest line. If not, it doesn't seem likely that they will be able to hit Krychorivka without controlling this area in this middle here. And moving to the Crimea front, at the Crimea front, the Ukrainians launched multiple attempts towards in the direction of Crimea, probably in the forest region. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they said that the attack is towards Crimea. My estimation is that the location of fighting is actually in the forest region here. There is recon forces contacting the Russian forces near Dibrova region, the Dibrova town. Interestingly, there is also fighting near Torske. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, they managed to take out some recon forces near Torske here. So we'll keep a lookout and see how this goes over at the Crimea front. Further up in the northern part of the Crimea front, there is fighting reported near Shevonopopivka on the 15th, where the Russians are reportedly attacking. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, the Russian Defense Ministry, however, said that on the very same day, yesterday, the on the 15th, the Ukrainians are attacking in the direction of Holy Kove, around here, north of Pishane, or north of Crimea. So the fighting continues to be rather fierce in this line here. The Ukrainians are reportedly continue to be attacking Ploshanka. This is a continuation of probably almost a month-long campaign to capture this position. And according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, yesterday the Russians did do a counteroffensive over in the direction of Ploshanka. So not so sure, because both sides are claiming they are the one defending. And this one is outdated. Okay, and I'm going to delete this too. This too is no longer relevant. And over at Stemekivka, the Russians continue to be attacking this region, this town, or at least near this town, on the 14th and on the 15th. Now on the 14th, it's actually reported by the Russian Defense Ministry. They say that they actually hit Ukrainian forces near the Stemekivka, whereas the Ukrainian Defense Ministry on the 15th reported that the Russians are attacking. Fighting is reported at Novoselivsky. This small little town here remains to be uncaptured. It seems like the Russians, despite holding much of it, still unable to eject the Ukrainians from this position. And that's all from the Sviatove front. Over at the Kupiansk front, there is a interesting report by the Russian Defense Ministry that the Ukrainians are attacking toward Sofievka. So Sofievka is here, this Sofievka, but they are definitely not fighting at Sofievka. They just in the direction. So the likely possibility is that the Ukrainian forces between Yahine and Kolyarivka is actually pushing in the direction of Sofievka, and over the rest of Kupiansk, we do not see any more fighting. The fighting over at the Vorishny region went quiet. We didn't see any information reported about the fighting in this region here. And that's all for the summary for the day of 294 to 295 for the 14th and 15th of December. Do press the like button. Please subscribe if you have not subscribed, and I'll see you in the next update.